welcome to the City of Anamosa City Council Agenda Regular Session Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, 6 p.m. Anamosa City Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Crump.
Here.
Smith. Here. Weimer.
Here.
Dan Smith.
Here.
Gombert.
Here.
5 of the 6 council members are present in chambers. 2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Three point zero consent agenda review and approve. There's 3 items listed. We'll read all 3 off. Council can make a motion that includes the word consent, which will bring all 3 up for a single vote and a discussion on all. Or council can make a motion on any of the individual listed items. Item A, minutes from May 27th, 2025 regular session. Item B, current bills. Item C, liquor licenses.
Move to approve consent.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council, just we can discuss all 3 items.
I have a question on the expenses under Public Service Department 211. Got a $1,500 bill to Fairview Concrete for sidewalk repair. What? Can you tell me what that was for?
When they did tore the house down up here, they had to rip off an ADA compliant sidewalk. And we had to have it put back in, so he put it back in first. Up here on Gardenville.
Right, was it because we didn't have staff available to do that, or was there a reason we didn't?
We don't do ADA because we don't know how.
Okay, so it's because of
We're
needing
not
to be special
certified to do it.
Okay, thanks.
What type of certification was that?
It's just, you gotta know the grade and how wide it's supposed to be and the angles, and he knows it and I don't.
Is
And
there,
it varies from different, however high your sidewalk is to the road, so in some places it may not work, or he has to cut some out, or lower the sidewalk. And we have not been to school for that.
The structure that is placed is its own pad, isn't it?
They got pads, we have pads, but they're not right.
Okay.
So it's easier just to have him do it the right way instead of us getting dinged down the road.
thanks, Shane.
Yep.
Any other questions? Haley, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Smith.
Yes.
Weimer.
Yes.
Dan Smith.
Yes.
Gombert.
Yes.
Crump.
Yes.
Motion to approve consent carries 4.0. Public hearings, none. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 postponed items, unfinished business. 6.1 review and approve sidewalk assessment agreement with HR Green not to exceed $17,000.
Melissa could not make it tonight. The sidewalk assessment that was discussed last time through Tiger Eye, I believe was the contractor, was what this covers. The question came up at last meeting as far as whether the city was going to contract directly with Tiger Eye or if it was going to be through HR Green, and then subsequently would there be additional charges if that happened. So Melissa got this back to me and confirmed that we would do this through HR Green and that there would not be any additional, I spoke too soon. Would not be any additional upcharges, so to speak, for this contract. So That is what this contract captures. Tiger Eye.
Decided to come back for a second night.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion?
So this will be for the whole city?
Yes, for a comprehensive assessment, just basically to figure out step one, where we go from there, what all sidewalks need to be addressed and to what degree.
What's,
Compliant, the pink things that are at the beginning of the sidewalk, when they're damaged and icky, do we go ahead and fix that, or do we wait for the survey?
I believe that's something we should probably, well, I guess it depends on the degree of damage, Shane. That would be partially the handicap accessibility and whatnot. So I don't know. I think it would depend on how damaged they are, if we need to immediately address it. If it seems to be several of them throughout the city, I think that the assessment would kind of show how to what degree. Mm.
Slopes as well, make sure that they're within the requirements of the state, the ADA ramps. I do know through the DOT, there's a grant available for replacement or repair for ADA ramps. So once we know the extent and how many there are, it may be a potential option to take care of the ramps at least. It doesn't cover the rest of the sidewalks. But it's not good.
what's the kind of projected time frame on starting the assessment then?
Last month, they told us that they could be here within 30 days.
Okay.
But I'll contact them tomorrow if this is approved and get a schedule for them.
Then do we have an idea of how long that process will take once they start?
I believe once they start, we would have either myself or someone else come in and check some areas once we see the report, just to make some verifications. Clean that up. It would probably be about a month and a half to 2 weeks.
So sometime yet this fall, we'll
Yeah.
probably have
That's
more of a final
Yeah,
report.
so our goal had been to get this assessment done. Present that to you, figure out what exactly our next steps are, can hopefully help the council make a decision on how to move forward with the ordinance. And then potentially start work on a sidewalk program for the first region. We have the city broken out into 6 regions.
6.
Does our ordinance cover it now, Jeremiah? How's it?
It does. That's part of, it might have been just before you got on council, but we started talking about a proposed sidewalk ordinance, several proposed sidewalk ordinance changes. And we just kind of, that stalled out for a while, but I believe HR Greens was pretty comprehensive based on a lot of other communities. It was pretty evident, though, if I recall at that time, it needed some discussion because there was, I mean, it got down in some cases to, very small differences or variations in sidewalk heights, which could be modified or amended depending on what the council decided. But I think it'll take a few conversations just to, in addition to just, approving the ordinance through the 3 readings. So yes, it is covered currently, but probably not to the extent that we need it to be if we're going to be implementing a comprehensive sidewalk program.
Downtown is included.
Yes, throughout the whole city, within the corporate city limits.
So if we find panels that are bad on private property,
We won't be assessing private property,
as far as, I'm sorry, the right of way,
right?
have we ever enforced that?
So there was a question, how did we ever, or
Have we ever?
I can't answer that, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
And that's what the city wanted to say. Because it is state code that the adjacent property owner maintains that sidewalk. In Anamosa and a lot of municipalities, there's no sidewalk on some streets, one side, two sides, it's mixed bag, so how to potentially make this a more affordable solution for the residents, at least during the first pass. And then it becomes more in line with state.
So.
And well, kind of with that is, I really believe we ought to look into the LMI money for some of those people that are in that low to moderate, income range, so we can help them out a little bit in this project.
Agreed. And we need to, here at City Hall, we need to identify some of those funds and get that accurate information to council. Just with the transition, we're not quite certain of that yet. But I have talked to some other communities, other city administrators. They've implemented pretty successful sidewalk replacement programs using LMI funds as assistance. So it's definitely on the table and would be something we could look at.
So. I don't mean to be the dummy, but let's say Ford Street. We're doing this assessment, so where on the sidewalk are we talking about? The whole sidewalk?
Full sidewalk,
Okay,
yeah, so it'll look at cross slopes, it'll look at panels that are uneven. There's state code states the width that can be there. So it'll pick up all of those, any cracks, everything.
Any corners in Arcadia compliant?
yeah, I just wouldn't, you were distinguishing between private property and right away.
Okay,
That confused me.
Sorry.
I'm easily confused. So.
Anything further? Any public comment on this agenda item? Haley?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gomber,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Motion to approve agreement carries. 7.0 council action item. 7.1 project status update, HR Green.
It's a code, HR Green, I apologize for being late at which if anyone needs to go that way, don't. Step through the status really quick. Third Street sidewalk, we continue to work on check plans that are due to the IOD on July 1st. We just discussed the sidewalk program, so as soon as we hear back from Tiger Eye and that scheduling, I'll let you know. I'll also touch base. There was a GIS element that where our GIS staff will create a dashboard, so it's part of the city's GIS information. There's no update on the well 7 siting study. The water treatment plant disinfection is substantially complete and in operation. So I'll likely be taking that off this next meeting. The sewer in the alley between Ford and North Huber went out for bid, and we have issued the notice of award and contract documents to the contractor, so we're working with them to execute the contract and the rescheduling and pre-construction meeting. City GIS services, work has been completed on the cemetery mapping project. So training can be given to those at City Hall who need access to view and edit the data to keep up to date and continue the process and adding information when it's good. GIS services, there is just continued maintenance of GIS database, and well 6 was added for this lease request. And then the Dillon Military Bridge we discussed at length last night. So we have already reached out to a few different consultants who we know specialize in historic bridges. And we'll be presenting follow-up information as we find it out. Sanitary sewer rehab near Elm Street and Hickory Street. Does the city have an update on any signed easement agreements?
We do not.
Haley Gingrich was gonna work to get those permit applications out, so. Just in hopes that that can be big and that can start up this season. That was it. Are there any questions?
On the alley sewer project. So the bids have been, or the solicitation for bids are out or have been accepted.
That was voted to award the last.
Oh,
meeting.
that's right. I can't, what was the time frame on getting that done?
Substantial completion is, I believe, November 30th.
So still
Yep,
this
this year.
construction, okay.
And then there's some final completion time for next spring for seeding. Final.
Thanks.
That entire stretch of that alley be tore up and blocked off? Or will it be done in some type
We
of,
will discuss what the contractor's plan is, the construction. So as far as what they're gonna, how they're gonna stage it.
is that? It's gonna be somewhat significant to keep peace in the town. As that alley is garbage pickup, obviously because it's downtown. And there is parking back behind those buildings. So that, from A to Z, if it's gonna be tore up, it's gonna be everybody on the block, correct?
Correct.
This is the north-south, not the east-west.
This is not.
This is in behind the-
I was thinking
but-
one
But
right
there's a lot of
behind.
varieties.
Right, there's a lot of-
Yep.
And yeah,
My bad,
I was thinking the same thing, but it's the north-south.
I wasn't even in the right,
You weren't on the right alley.
I wasn't even in the right pew, was I?
But,
No,
but there are a lot of. That's where people have to get in and out of their garages and driveways. And
Yeah.
stuff. So we'll have to have probably some. Sort of temporary signage for parking on the city street.
Well, city street or the city lot that's down there.
So where will they stage all their equipment and stuff? Cause that's gonna be an issue.
That's what I don't know, since we don't have an executed contract yet, we haven't had it.
Is it possible that did the Lutheran church buy that lot?
Yeah.
The old
The old
lumberyard, they've
lumberyard.
got that.
Yeah.
Which they may be willing to.
Right,
I would guess they would understand.
I mean, actually, it's all cleaned up for the most part and more or less. Seems usable for
Yeah.
potentially at least
Yeah,
temporary.
the only-
solution.
The only time they probably wouldn't like it would be Sundays.
Sundays.
Well, and they have their parking and then there's another area that they have fenced off.
Well,
That they
the
don't
flood
park in
area.
on Sunday.
The flood area.
anything else for Melissa? Well, thanks for that update, Melissa. See, you're listed on here a few more times. You're probably gonna hang around?
Yeah.
Okay. 7.2, resolution 2025-31 to set the wages of seasonal part-time parks and recreation employees for the 2025 summer season.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. This relates to personnel matter. I'm not going for public opinion. Haley, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
K Smith,
Yeah,
Weimer,
Yes,
7.3, resolution 2025-32 to set the wage of permanent part-time LCC personnel for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. Same applies as this is a personnel matter. Kaylee, would you conduct a roll vote?
Comfort,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Case Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to set wage carried. 7.4, resolution 2025-33 to set the wage of a temporary part-time library intern for the 2025 summer season.
Move to approve.
Second.
I would like to amend this resolution. I sent it to you earlier, sorry, I wasn't sure if that got out in the memo. We need to change the name on there, because the name on there, yeah, but it actually used to be Phoenix Baker Dry Mill.
That'd be what?
Phoenix Baker Dry Mill. Phoenix Baker Dry Mill is hyphenated. Sorry. Resolution still stands, it's just, it needs to be edited within it.
Any council discussion?
Do I need to read?
I think I heard your motion covered just what she said.
Okay.
You go with that?
Okay.
Okay.
I was just asking.
No, I hear you. Sometimes it don't hurt to slightly waver, I guess. Kaylee, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Case Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to set wage carries. 7.5, resolution 2025-34, accepting the application for voluntary annexation of parcel 2008-53 in the northeast northwest parcel 2004-66 parcel ID number 0901100002 as submitted by Dave and Aaron Jenkins and setting the date of the public hearing on the proposed annexation.
So this item, it was brought to my attention earlier. I had it listed on the agenda, but it was not included in the packet. I set it on your spaces here tonight as the actual resolution. Essentially, I think as my update provided, the Jenkins would like to annex this property in. We can talk about the details further in the next meeting or two. There's several legal requirements we do have to follow in order to annex this in. However, based on some old documents to a previous property owner, the former city attorney had drafted an agreement in order to, in exchange to allow the city to put a temporary or a permanent easement and lift station there, that we would go ahead and provide a free connection or no charge connection to the sewer service. Essentially, I have reached out to the city attorney on this. They advise this is entirely up to the council, but if we're gonna do that, we do need to put it in the pre-annexation agreement. So nothing specifically that needs to be addressed today. But that is the plan or intent moving forward, is to have them draft something up that indicates that, and then proceed with all the required mailings and notices, until the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to hold a public hearing for Monday, July 14th at 6 p.m. at the Anamosa Library and Learning Center.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Council discussion.
Just curious, do we have any idea what the cost will be to provide whatever we need to provide?
I would normally check with Steve on that. Rachel, do you happen to know, or do we just need to follow up with Steve and I can get that back?
That's a great question. You know, the financials on that, but yeah, I can see if I can get an answer tonight. I can let you know in the open.
Yeah.
Or I'll have Steve follow up.
Thank you.
I can say I don't believe it's substantial. And I guess considering the fact that we're going to be gaining some taxable revenue from the property, I think it
Would the intent to be after the appropriate publications and the hearing on, or the meeting on the 14th of July, do we have an idea that that would be completed yet this year?
That is how I understand it. Yes, in fact, promptly.
And would it be under the 20, what budget year would we be taking the money out of pay for it?
Would be under 25, 26
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, it'd be, our expenses would come out of the fiscal 26, yes.
I just didn't know where we would be budget wise if we have to make any adjustments.
But
Depending on what they do with that, Jeremiah, that lift station's not, the pumps in there aren't very big. You remember, Rachel, how big those pumps are?
Not off the top of my head, but there's very little going into that lift station, so it's not taking on.
I'm just
a great
saying,
deal.
if we hook something bigger in there, it might cause a problem with pumping.
Sure.
Might need bigger pumps eventually.
Right, if we're talking about that lift station, I know we just had our survey and we're hoping that that lift station can be upgraded in the foreseeable future.
And also the force main would come out right directly in front of that lift station. They probably wouldn't want to build anything directly in front of that lift station.
Towards 130th.
Yes, comes out right. I gotta think here. To the left of the driveway, I think.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that because that'll all come, if this gets approved and we move through that.
Get to thinking about it's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll just have to, I'll have to make sure to note that when we do the site review of the proposed construction.
any other discussion from council? Public comment? Haley?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gombert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve setting the public hearing carries. 7.6, resolution 2025-35. Resolution authorizing and approving a loan and disbursement agreement and providing for the issuance and securing the payment of $3,165,000 sewer revenue bonds series 2025.
All the resolution and attached documents were provided by Dorsey and Whitney. I do not have any further comment on this. I take it our bond attorney knows what they're doing, so.
Did they make any of these bonds callable? Do you know?
I would have to check. I'd have to check. I'm not sure if that's standard not to, and we have to request that, or if it's just part of what is normal.
Cause I mean, I would like to see us, at least on the back half, have some of those callable. But I mean, you're talking 20 years into the future that if things happen properly, we could get some of this debt retired earlier. So if we could find out about where we cut it off and make them callable.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Well, I don't know, can we make a motion on this unless we know about whether or not they're callable, because I can't remember where I read it, but it said something about no adjustments off of this resolution based on what's here.
Would you like to make a motion to approve it contingent upon verification that they are callable?
I can do that.
I will check immediately tomorrow.
Sounds like it.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. Further council discussion? Public comment? Haley?
Kay Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gomper,
Yep.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carries. 7.7, discussion and possible action. Request by Mark Hoyer to install an electric fence at 115 North Ford Street.
Mark is here this evening. If you recall, I think last meeting, there was some public comment with a mention of the electric fence at his residential property. Before he submits for a fence permit, I advise that he should probably come before the council and let the council hear this. The code does allow for electric fence with written consent of the council. But I didn't want him to apply for it and not be granted it on the front side. So, Mark, if you have any comments.
Could you come on up, Mark, and state your name and then your
Mark
residence?
Hoyer, 115 North Ford, Anamosa, Iowa. Thank you, Mayor and council member. Yeah, just the deer in town have like last year, I put eight tomato plants and I end up with 3 tomatoes. You know, it just, they'll eat everything to the ground that you grow, so. I just like to protect my interest in, my canning and whatever I like to do in the fall or whatever.
So, Mark, your place is the first place north of the bowling.
Yes, sir.
And you do kind of have a plotted garden out there. I drove up past there this evening.
Yeah,
What in the neighborhood, do you have kids coming around through the
No.
yard at all?
They usually if they do, there'll be school buses dropping them off up at the church and then they walk down the sidewalk and there's nobody back there.
It didn't, because your property butts up against the REC and the Lutheran parking.
Yeah, yes.
I don't particularly have an issue with it. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't
Well, I'll
have
make
kids.
sure, put signs on it, so, daylight. Hopefully the deer don't know how to read at night.
Well, who hasn't?
Take that for granted.
Yeah.
Who among us hasn't bumped up against an electric fence? It gets your attention.
Yeah, it does.
How many strands are you going to put up?
I was gonna put one, right, and then one roll over to the
So about
ground,
3.
3.
Okay.
It's about what, waist level high.
Yeah, just so they're,
At
if
the,
their nose hits it or something like that, it'll,
at the highest one rung in a sense will be waist high.
probably 36, 40 inches, somewhere in there.
We'll
They'll be
anxious
able to
know
leap
how
it
works.
very
Yes,
easily.
I would like to know if it gets approved, like, would be wonderful.
You have any suggestions on how to keep the rabbits out of the lettuce that my wife plants?
Well, you go to Tyson's, they got this little fence about like this, and they got little squares in it, so.
Chicken wire.
Yeah, chicken wire, or, just don't plant lettuce.
Or feed the rabbit.
Right.
Yeah,
If council approves this evening, you'll be into City Hall real quick, like to get your permit and install the fence.
yes, I've
Uh,
already got the paperwork already.
all right. Well, one thing is to further the safety, because that's just it. You don't know if some young child is gonna be running around. Is there some type of flagging you could place on that would be more visible that the fence is there?
Well, at Tyson's, you can get signs that the wire goes through when they hang. And it says electrified fence or something like that, to that effect.
I have seen where there's like a ribbon type of flag that is attached to, especially the upper rungs
The upper
of
one,
wire of electric fence,
I
and
could probably find some plastic or something,
give consideration to that if you would.
Yes, sir,
I mean, you don't want the additional liability matter, and
right,
the city wouldn't either.
right,
Appreciate that. Impending council's approval.
right.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kay, second by Todd. Further council discussion?
Well, could we have, as part of that motion, then the note that hanging flags or something, for notification that it is an electric fence? Just to have that all wrapped up in one.
Some
motion.
sort of signage.
Yeah, something to,
Sure, that's fine.
That's what your motion contained, correct, Kay? Todd, you heard that for your second?
Yes.
All right. Any other council discussion? Is there public comment? Haley, please conduct a roll vote.
Crump,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Bamber,
Motion to approve installation of electric fence carried. Mark, good luck with your detention of deer.
Thank you very much, sir.
Give us a report on your tomato production too. Maybe a little salsa at some meeting.
7.8, review and approve tree removal request from Starlighters.
I've just attached a task note here as well as a photograph. Back in September, Starlighters came to City Hall and requested that the tree that's up in front of their place be removed. At that time, they were stating that not only did they think that it was a pest control issue, there was a raccoon that they believed was allegedly accessing their building and tearing it up from that tree. But also that it was going to impede the visibility on a proposed new marquee. At that time, I talked to Shane, just kind of a general thought, said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something we could do easily? He thought that it would be a good idea, something to the effect of possibly the wrong type of tree being there or difficult to maintain. And he was all about removing it. But we decided the council should probably be involved in that decision. Starlighters came back. There was some hesitation on their board. They wanted to talk more about it and secure a majority decision from the board before they moved forward with this. So that's the reason for the hesitation. It's been a while since they've talked about it. Re-talked about it again, contacted City Hall, said they're ready to proceed with this. So I just told them we'd put on the council agenda, get the council's thoughts on this, and I would issue a response.
Is the marquee that they're putting up, is that gonna be like perpendicular to the building, or is it gonna be attached? Is it gonna
I
hang out
believe it's
over
gonna
this-
be, so, well, it is not secured yet, so they are not entirely sure. They're still in the preliminary stages of obtaining that. From what I understand, though, they want to put it on the exterior of the building. So it's gonna be actually attached to the building facing outward.
So is it gonna be kind of like what that design is?
I believe so, yes. That's what the plan is. There's some funding that they're trying to secure as well, though, so not entirely
Removal of
sure.
the tree might help the bird problem that is on the crumble there.
Hmm.
Overhang, whatever you call it.
I would make the motion to approve.
Motion by Dan, I did not catch, was that you, Brooke?
Yeah.
Motion by Dan, second by Brooke. Council discussion.
Shane,
Yeah,
you said you think it's the wrong style of tree downtown?
now it's getting too big for its area.
It is pretty full.
And it's
I
pretty,
mean,
we
what-
trim her back every year quite a bit in the fall before we hang Christmas lights. And I feel like we're gonna kill it and then it comes back with vengeance. All the trees in town are the same way. They are really starting to impede the signage on these other streets. But this one here is the biggest one besides Wapsie Physical Therapy.
When
The other
you,
ones are kind of manageable, but it's getting pretty big.
when you say in town, you're just talking about the nodes.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's the biggest tree on Main Street, except for the ones at Wapsie Physical Therapy. Right there along the street.
Yeah.
And it's starting to really come out, and I'm really gonna have to hack the heck out of it, so semis aren't getting whacked.
Okay,
And it's into, we're getting into the signage of the street, crossing sidewalk lights.
and when you take these out, you don't think they're gonna damage the sidewalk in any way?
I'm hoping to fall it on the street.
Okay,
Are we gonna, if
It's
you,
only one. I'm not taking them all down, just that
well,
one.
I know, but just removing one, if you're removing roots and all, or are you just
Oh.
cutting it down?
We're just gonna cut it down.
Okay,
There's electrical in there somewhere that hasn't worked for quite a while. So under the ground in that node, so we're probably gonna have to just cut it off. And then stump grind it after we find the wire.
okay,
so you're gonna grind out the stuff, at least in the node itself, but
At
leave
some
everything.
point. We will have to.
Rather than tap off the electric though, would it be possible to see what the issue is with the electric in case at some point we need to use that?
Well,
for-
people in there, and we can't seem to find it right at the moment, so. Maybe with removal of the tree, it'll be easier to find.
You could probably hydro that, Shane.
Well, that's another option that we'll probably do, but right now we just, if we're gonna take the tree down. Want to get it down and get our flowers planted in it, and then we'll move on this summer.
I'm just thinking that we have some festivals and other things that use electric that we may not want to cut that off entirely unless it gets to be cost
We've
prohibitive.
ran a drop cord from another pole. Down and then across to do the Christmas lights, so if that's what we have to do. Till we can figure it out, that's what we have to do.
Okay.
Anything else, council? Public comment? Haley?
Weimer,
Yes,
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gompert,
Yes.
Crump,
yes,
Casement,
Yes,
Motion to approve carries. 7.9, review and approve IEDA certificate of compliance.
Anything special need to be said on this? I think we've pretty straightforward. That particular compliance document had several drawings, diagrams with it that was plugging up everybody's email. I apologize for that. I had to resend some of it. They're nice renderings, though.
Yeah, that was very detailed. Entertain a motion to approve.
move to approve.
second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Council discussion.
Well, I will say I was kind of surprised by some of the contamination sites.
yeah,
Mm.
they're all closed.
Yeah,
The old actually.
well, one of them I didn't even know existed as a old contamination site, so it kind of surprised me.
Any public comment? Haley?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gompert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes,
Casement,
Yes,
Weimer,
Yes,
Motion to approve carried. 7.10, review and approve environmental review for the downtown facade revitalization project.
move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. Further council discussion? Public comment? Haley?
Gompert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes,
Casement,
yes,
Weimer,
yes,
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.11, review and approve CDBG technical service contract with EC Cog not to exceed $3,000 for the downtown facade revitalization project.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Brooke. Council discussion. Public comment? Kaylee, please.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried. 7.12, review and approve pay requests from Tyler Tech in the amount of $38,017.16 for annual software payment.
This is just separated out since it's not a project, but definitely significant enough. I wanted to make sure it got before the council outside of our normal expense packet. This is for our accounting software and all the, I guess we'll call it tech support that comes with it, although some days we question that.
Everything that helps Kaylee do her job.
Yes, and then some, yes.
Get approved very quickly.
Are things going better with Tyler?
Yes and no, they're going better just because I think we're becoming more accustomed to it and familiar with using it. It's still, it takes some getting used to as far as the system goes, but now that I think we're all becoming more comfortable with it, it's easy. The real issue there, I think, is it's very customizable, which I think goes with the cost of it. But when we have certain technical issues, we can call other communities that are also using it. They can come in and recognize issues, problems, discrepancies. But we say, well, so how can you help us out with this? They go, nope, we have no idea because we don't know what the inner workings are doing behind the scenes. It's set up to operate for each municipality. So yeah, it's one of a few that I've heard of out there, but when going to different trainings and conferences and whatnot and talking to other city administration staff, there's good and bad with all of them. So I think overall we're satisfied with what we have.
Okay, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Brooke. Further council discussion? Public comment? Kaylee?
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Motion to approve payment carries. 7.13, review and approve change order from WRH Inc. in the amount of $133,215.07 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project.
Just one point of clarification on this, because Nick Eisenbacher from Snyder reached out to me earlier, wanted to make sure there wasn't any confusion about this. Essentially, this is a change order to correct the last change order. So the change order that we recently approved on the 24th was for $201,787.77, which took the total project cost up to $4.25 million. They went in, did the work, realized that they did not take the entire amount to fix that. Instead, it was this change order for $133,215.07. So the total project cost is at $4.19 million. So this is just merely reconciling those records where originally we said we were going to do this $201,000 change order. We're doing $133,000 change order.
Is this for the ground stabilization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll
Yeah.
move to approve them.
Motion by Rich, second by Brooke. Council discussion. I take it the initial 201,000, there was no money exchanged for that yet.
No, that's correct.
Any public comment? Haley?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
K. Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve payment or change order carries. 7.14, review and approve consent agenda pay request totaling $932,777.27. There are 9 items listed. I will read all 9 off. Council can make a motion that includes consent, which will bring all items up for a discussion in a single vote. Or item can itemize individually the items. Item A from WRH Inc. in the amount of $890,235,072 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project. Item B from HR Green in the amount of $271.50 for the Anamosa sidewalk program. Item C from HR Green in the amount of $380.75 for the Dillon Military Bridge project. Item D from HR Green in the amount of $1,654.25 for the Engineering Services Masters Service Agreement. Item E from HR Green in the amount of $11,208 for the Third Street Sidewalk Extension Project. Item F from HR Green in the amount of $10,000 for the water treatment plant aerator replacement project. Item G from HR Green in the amount of $8,505.50 for cemetery GIS services. Item H from HR Green in the amount of $362 for water GIS services. Item I from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $10,159.55 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project.
Move to approve consent.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council, the motion was with consent, which brings up all items for discussion.
I also have a question on the aeration system at the water plant. Was that just equipment replacement or what took place up there?
That I would have to go back to is with the water services department. So I can touch base with Josh Stanley and verify with Jeremiah tomorrow morning.
Because to me, there should have been a lot of. It should have just been equipment replacement, not a lot of modifications.
The amount under item A, would that include the change order?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was looking at something else. I was gonna bring that to council's attention and for the public, the actual contractor's application for payment. It does include the change order number 1 for over excavation. And you can see here, it does include the $133,215.07, not the 200,000.
Don't say anything further? Public comment? Kaylee, please conduct a roll vote.
Gombert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
K. Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Consent motion carries. 8.0, city administrators report.
I don't have anything this evening.
Council, do you have anything for Jeremiah? 9.0, mayor and council reports. 9.1, mayor's report. I have nothing. 9.2, council reports. 10.0, public comment for items not on the agenda.
Good evening, Shane Burrow, Street Superintendent. In the last couple of weeks, we've been busy. We got the blocks out there in the roundabout. We also planted some flowers out there. We did get most of the flowers planted on Main Street. We have that one node left. Where we're gonna take the tree down. We are also getting the mulch put in. And and then Walworth Hill is getting done, so. There's been a little bit of inconvenience on that, but Boomerang is here and we should be back open in a week or two, so. That's us.
Thanks, Shane. 11.0 adjournment. This evening's meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for participating. So, I've had. Nope, that's okay. Stop this meeting. Yes.